So it's often said that it's okay to play off-meta heroes, and that's totally true, and I agree with that 100%. However, off-meta heroes are different than meta heroes. You have to play them differently, know them differently, and understand your enemies differently to really understand and master them. That is why they're off-meta. They are harder to play and they are less effective unless you really know how to use them, which is what we're going to be covering today. How you can effectively be playing off-meta heroes to get that sweet SR and gain some rank. The first thing you should know, and you probably already know, is that a lot of people don't like it when you play off-meta heroes. Hanzo is a huge culprit of this. Whenever someone sees a Hanzo in a game, they sometimes actually just go to throw. And, that's no good. You don't want that. So let's talk about how to prevent that and let your team actually work with you when you're playing someone who's off meta. The first step you're going to want to do is 100% going to be join voice comms. If you don't join voice comms and you are someone who's playing an off meta hero, a lot of people will immediately think you're throwing, you're uncooperative, and not a valuable part of the team. It's actually a vicious cycle. You see, someone at one point was probably in voice comms. They got flamed for playing someone like Hanzo and they left voice comms. And then they felt like if they went back, they'd get flamed even more. And since it's no fun being flamed, people don't join voice comms. They get flamed in chat and it further makes them not want to join voice. If you're playing someone who's off meta, realistically, if you want to win, then you have to be in voice comms. There's no way around it. You're gonna get hugely flamed if you're playing someone like Hanzo or any off-meta hero and you're not in comms, but as soon as you go into comms, the chances of you being flamed, the chances of your team not cooperating with you go down drastically. If you just explain to them that you're good with this hero and if it's not working you'll switch, they will be very cooperative. It's when you don't join comms, refuse to switch, and do all these other things that make it look like you're throwing, that's when off-meta heroes don't really work. And that's what a lot of off-meta players do. Lots of Hanzo mains and Genji mains. Genji's not even off-meta, but a lot of these mains are notorious for this, and their win rates are going to suffer because of it. Don't be that guy who sits outside of voice comms. Join voice, cooperate with your team, and your off-meta pick is already going to work 10 times better. Step 2 in playing your off-meta hero is going to be learn your synergies. For example, Hanzo works very well with Zarya. You basically have a guaranteed team wipe when you combo Graviton Surge and Dragon Strike, with the exception of the enemy team having a Zenyatta, but even then you can still get a team wipe with an Ana Nade or just people shooting into the Graviton Surge. So things like this are things you're going to need to know, and not just the big combos either. It's good to know that someone like Winston combos very well with Zarya because she can protect him and he can deal a lot of damage and get out safely with the help of his own shield and a Zarya's barrier. Things like this are things you should know, and then definitely communicate these to your team. If you show knowledge in your hero that you're playing, people are going to be more confident with it and play better knowing that you actually understand your hero and you're not just some dude who's trying to learn Hanzo for the first time and you're just going to play him until it seems to work. Show that you know your hero, show that you know who they're good with, and people will flame less, people will get angry less, and they'll just play better and you'll win more games. On the flip side of things, you need to know who counters you. As someone who plays Widowmaker a lot, I can tell you for certain when the enemy team is running a Diva and a Winston, there are times when I need to switch. Now sometimes they don't do their job, and we'll talk about that later, but there are some times an enemy team knows you're playing an off-meta hero, knows you're good at it, and knows how to shut it down. For example, if you're playing Attack Bastion on a payload map and you're pushing pretty well, but all of a sudden your team gets wiped, you pretty much have to switch off of Attack Bastion. The whole point of Attack Bastion is that you set up on the cart and they can't move you off it. Once you're moved off of the cart, even if you get back on it, you need your whole team there with you, pocketing you. You need a Reinhardt shield, you need some heals, you need maybe a Zarya bubble. You need all these things in place to make this pick work. And this isn't the only pick that's like that. Widowmaker and other off-meta heroes, especially Hanzo as well, sometimes like Sombra, the enemy may find the way to shut you down. And once this happens, the longer it takes you to switch and realize that you're being countered, the lower your win rate's gonna be. Identify when the enemy team has you countered. I often like to kind of deny it. I'm like, that Winston's got nothing on me as Widowmaker. I'll keep sniping, I'll be fine, and then I'll look back later and we lost the game, and I wonder why. Maybe it was because I was being sat on by a Winston all game. Things like this are things you need to adapt to early on. Maybe one death, you can try your pick again, but if you keep dying to the same enemy or the same combination of abilities or enemy strats, you need to switch, because they've clearly figured you out, and you're not going to be able to win the game with ease if you don't. And this is actually where a lot of one-trick players go wrong, like the Hanzo mains, the Sombra mains, all of them. They refuse to identify when to switch. Sure, heroes like Hanzo and Sombra can both work, but there are situations where they won't. The enemy team has you countered, and a lot of one-trick players are people who play off-meta heroes even when they're in voice comms and they're not being that guy who doesn't talk or communicate with his team, won't switch sometimes because they still think their off-meta pick can work because they've made it work in the past. That doesn't matter. Sometimes it's not the fact that your pick is off-meta. That's not why you need to switch. Sometimes you just need to switch because the enemy team is countering you. And if you can identify that and you can be that guy who plays an off-meta hero but knows when to swap off of it, you're going to be much better off because of it. And my final tip for playing off-meta heroes efficiently is learn how to play against enemy off-meta heroes. And this sounds like it might be obvious, but you'd be surprised as to how many people don't know how to deal with off-meta heroes on the enemy team when they're playing one themselves. And this is because when you learn a hero that not a lot of people play, you generally learn how to use them in the current meta. You know how this hero deals with tanks, or in the previous meta, you would have known how to deal with tanks. In the current meta, it might be a little bit different, but you basically know the heroes that are popular, and you know how to deal with them in your own creative way. But since your hero is off meta and not everyone plays them, it might be harder to realize what you can do against the enemy Junkrat or the enemy Hanzo or Widowmaker that's just stomping you all day long. So plan this out ahead of time, do your research, know how to deal with these other weird picks if you don't want to be forced into a new hero that can deal with them. Because in the end, if you can deal with multiple situations, the more situations you can deal with on your hero, the less you have to swap. And that's going to be a good thing in general because not a lot of people like swapping. There's a hero they prefer, and that's the hero they want to play. You don't like being told when to swap, and you don't like being forced when to swap because it clearly means you weren't doing your job before. So if you can do your job better, all the more power to you. So hopefully all you Junkrat mains out there get a kick out of this video, and all of you other off-meta players as well. Be sure to never join my team because I will flame you. Not actually, but if you don't do your job, maybe. Who knows? Regardless, check out the video on screen. It is a video about how to make $1 million living from home, and fitness trainers hate him. That's that video. You should click on that because all that will happen to you, and it'll be great. Hopefully you all enjoyed. I'll see y'all later. Have a good one. Lone Hawk out.